Welcome everyone. This and the next session will focus our attention on applying the structural frame theories to analyzing a case study. The case that we will use to illustrate the case analysis process is the Robert F. Kennedy case included in Bowman and Deal's text. However, I provide options for students who would prefer to use a case study more relevant to their circumstances. The case analysis process, however, will be the same. The primary purpose of analyzing the Robert F. Kennedy case is to develop skills in the art of reframing. We analyze the case using the structural frame to enable you to become more familiar with procedures as well as become accustomed to a disciplined and focused approach to analysis. Bowman and Deal observed that each frame gives you a unique perspective. However, after mastering all 4 frames, you can use them in an integrative process that provides you with a more complete understanding of the multidimensional nature of problems and alerts you to the need for multifaceted solutions. House systems are often used in large high schools to increase the contact between students, teachers, and administrators. For example, a high school with 2,400 students may create 12 houses of 200 students in each house. This helps to ensure that students are known, have greater opportunities to participate in school governance, clubs, and events. This is particularly important to students who may be academically at risk or may drop out of school. House systems are typically embedded in a school district's bureaucratic structure that is hierarchical in nature. In other words, it's a school within a school, and may vary in configuration from having all administrative instruction within one house, as proposed in the RFK case, to those that may have administrators, counselors, and students, homerooms and governance, etc., in the house, but have instruction delivered across the whole school. In sum, there are a number of house systems. An organization chart of Robert F. Kennedy High School looks like this on the next slide. As you can see in this slide, it's a traditional hierarchical structure. However, it has one anomaly. The department heads are at the level above the housemasters, yet their work involves supervising teachers who report to the housemasters. In addition, there are several administrative vacancies. Both of these elements are important to the case analysis and also possible solutions. The next slide provides a site plan for the school. You should note that the school has an open plan and students move freely under covered walkways. Each house has its own building with an administrative core at the center. During the first year of operation, access to the school buildings was very easy. The next slide shows the school during the second year of operation. You should notice several changes to the school that were implemented to correct access problems. You should pay particular attention to the police cars parked out in front of the school and the locked outside doors marked as red that restricted outside access. Now let's talk about the case analysis process. Several general principles derived from qualitative research methods have been adapted and presented as steps in the case analysis process. Step 1. Read the case. In qualitative research, your data are embedded in the case study. In other words, your data are the descriptive narrative. Thus, it's essential that you are familiar with the context, the nature of the organization, and case events. Read the case study thoroughly, as well as the supplementary information provided in the section Structural Issues and Options. Step 2. Know the major theories. You need to understand the basic tenets of structural theories. Use your notes and text. This is not a memory course. Step 3. Identify case study events that have structural properties. A process described as back and forth may prove useful. Move from the case events to structural theories and then back to check to see if those events are indeed structural in nature. This process will help in aligning events and theories. Step 4. List events in chronological order as they are presented in the case. Be sure that you pay attention to the description of the context. In other words, inner city location, population characteristics, student demographics, and so on, as they are highly relevant to the notion of the impact of the external environment on organizational structure. You may enter them in column 1, Review Events, of the case analysis sheet that is included in the syllabus and also on the next slide. I've entered these to illustrate what I mean. Here is how events may be chronologically entered on the case analysis sheet. Please note that only structural events are included. Step 5. List relevant theories in column 2, Review Theory and Concepts, that may help explain these events. You may find that some theories may apply to several events in the case study. That's acceptable. When you write your analysis, you may bundle these events together and then explain them using one theory. I'll show you how to do this in the next slide, as well as step 6, and writing your analysis section of the paper. As I mentioned, align relevant structural theories to the right of structural events, as I have done in this slide. Step 6, Analysis. There are several tasks that need to be completed in your case analysis, including A. Align events with relevant theories. See the example in the case study sheet that follows. Then B. Group or bundle events that fit one theory together and create sections for your analysis. See the example I'm providing on the next slide. This slide shows you how to bundle events and align them with relevant theories. If you look at the column under Analysis, we have Environment, Goals, Bureaucracy, Communication, and Leadership or Management. Now let's take a look at the case analysis process itself. Begin your analysis section by writing a broad yet concise overview of the purpose of organizations, and then a brief yet concise overview of the assumptions of the structural frame. Then, write up each separate section of your analysis. Remember, you may have several sections in your analysis, one for each set of events and relevant theories. Then, the structure of your analysis will look like this: recap events, recap theory, and then discuss events using theory. In this slide, I've provided an example of one section of the structural case analysis. Please note that I've recapped events and theories and then discussed them. This is a sequence that you will need to follow in each of several sections in your case analysis. Each section should be clearly labeled, like the example, Environment. As you can see, there's a recap of events, a recap of theory, and a discussion that follows. Step 7, Recommendations for corrective action. After using the theoretical concepts to analyze the case study, you should be in a position to make recommendations for corrective action. Your recommendations should emerge from your analysis. In other words, your recommendations should fall out of the analysis point by point and should be consistent with the structural frame. You can see the analysis in the next slide. Also, you may want to consider how to reconcile a horizontal house structure that's embedded in a vertical hierarchy. This slide shows you how to align recommendations with your analysis. As you can see, every analysis section should produce a recommendation. It's a very logical and systematic process. Environment produces an environment recommendation. Goals, you have a goals recommendation. bureaucracy. You have an organizational structural recommendation. Communication. You'll establish lines of effective communication given the structure that you recommend. Leadership and management. How does it all work? Step 8. Critique of the theoretical perspective. A critique of the theoretical perspective of the structural frame, in this case, that you use to analyze the case study should include a review of the basic assumptions of the organization, basic assumptions of the structural frame, and then focus on its strengths and weaknesses. The far right section of this slide lays out what you need to do when you critique the structural frame. I've included this slide to show you what I mean by critiquing the structural frame and focusing on its strengths and weaknesses. You'll know that I begin with the assumptions, then I move to a heading called strengths, and then to a heading called weaknesses. This slide shows you how the critique sheet can provide a basic structure for your paper and what's expected in each section. Please provide headings of each individual section. Roman numeral 1, review of case events. Roman numeral 2, review of theoretical concepts. Roman numeral 3, analysis. Roman numeral 4, recommendations. And Roman numeral 5, critique of theoretical perspectives. I'll use the critique sheet as a framework for grading and providing feedback on your paper. This last slide lists several structural concepts, provides brief notes and page numbers from texts that may help you get started. I think you're going to enjoy doing the case studies. However, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call. Thanks.